I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no less told. Today I'm joined by Mr. Steve Sxaks. He is a touring punk rocker turned into an audio engineer. He's also a award-winning educator and now a published author. He's the co-founder of Marsten House Recording, one of Philadelphia's most respected recording studios, where he's produced for artists across every genre for over 16 years. Steve is also the creator of the Marsten House Cyphers, a celebrated platform for underground hip-hop talent. As well, he's also been a U.S. Army veteran and nonprofit leader, as well as a music technology educator. He blends discipline, creativity, and authenticity in everything he does. His debut novel, Invasion of the Punk Rockers Who Drink Blood, is a bold fusion of horror, rebellion, and coming-of-age grit. So please give a huge welcome to Steve Sxaks to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to hear your story. We've been talking for about 20 minutes, and I told him, I said, I need to just shut up and press record. Because
Yeah,
I
we
told
were
him,
before we gave all the good stuff away in the pre-interview.
that it happened to me recently. I had scheduled a time with someone. We talked for 40 or 50 minutes, never pressed record. I had an interview coming up after it. So I told that person, okay, that this can be our pre-interview. So I tend to now do that. So I was like, I better shut up before that happens again. So, so happy for you to be on the show. Read your bio, and you've got such a huge, as I say, a diverse resume built up of like just like all the major big things. So I guess starting from the beginning, tell me a little bit about just yourself and explain how childhood was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have always kind of like wanted to be in the entertainment business, I guess. I just was like born to be an entertainer. I don't know. I would just do anything to get some little bit of attention, which is funny now because that's how my kids are. So they're following in my footsteps, I think. But yeah, anything I could do, I just always was very like creative and just needed to have some kind of like way to express myself, or I'd get into serious trouble. I was good for that too. Throughout school, I was the class clown, always getting into fights, always just I didn't take anything seriously. So I got kicked out of the regular school and then had to go to the alternative school, and even there, as soon as I got the chance to go on tour, I dropped out of school. I was even in alternative school, fighting, not caring about anything. And then my band got signed. And I'm telling you, the day that the tour opportunity came, it was like, I'm done. And I would have never even got my GED until the Army thing popped up and you had to have it. And that's another random story. I don't want to ramble through all the questions, but yeah, childhood was just me doing whatever I could to get attention because I think I'm a little bit of like a self-obsessed narcissist.
Well, I mean, if it's for a passion, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well,
If it's for like a passion.
I think every musician you talk to will probably tell you something similar that they're vain in some way. My all my slogans now these days, if you watch any of like my hosting videos of the Marsten House Cyphers, I started off, I'm like, it's Steve Sxaks, the most beautiful man in the world, and I have all these nicknames I give myself. So that's kind of become my persona, as just being that guy. The way I met my wife was even telling her that I was the best drummer alive or dead.
Did it
I,
work at least in the end?
she had two of my kids, so I guess it did.
That's the answer. You know, but
Just
to have so you kind of have delved into the genre of punk rock, and you kind of have also dove into hip hop. Tell me a
right.
little bit about how it was growing up with punk rock and hip hop, because to me it was. I'm trying to think of like popular bands that were punk rock during that time. I know Green Day probably was popular.
That's probably the biggest of those. Like
Yeah.
if you go into like pop punk, at that time it was Blink 182, Green Day, MXPX. There was a couple bands that were touching mainstream success, but I didn't never care for any of that stuff because it wasn't punk rock enough. Um, but my best friend in the world, he had an older sister and she always wore like Misfits t-shirts and these like different bands like that. And you know, and then my other really good friend, he had an older brother who was really into the Germs and all these other more obscure bands. If you're into punk rock, they're not obscure, but if you're a casual fan, everybody kind of knows the Misfits. You could buy a Misfits t-shirt at Walmart these days. So it's like that's like not super, hard to hard to recognize, but the Germs are more obscure, Screeching Weasel, and so just being friends with them and their older brothers and sister getting us into that stuff. My parents were vaguely into. My dad liked bands like Social Distortion, and my mom liked The Clash and some of the, you know, older, more known, bigger like punk rock bands from back in the day. So I just kind of took all those influences and ran with it. And the transition to hip hop was interesting because I didn't really know much about it. And Philly had such a rich like hip hop culture too. There's State Property and of course Beanie Siegel's like one of my favorite all time rappers. But like Philly had just a very rich hip hop culture. Schoolie D is credited for inventing gangster rap. So it's like I didn't know too much about that stuff going on. But when I got into punk rock, I would order vinyl records out of like catalogs, and there was a label called Epitaph, and I was just ordering records off of there. I never had heard of them. This is this is like early internet. I don't think we even had a computer, and like pre Google and all that stuff, pre YouTube, before all that. So I just ordered a record called A Healthy Distrust by Sage Francis, and it was a rap record, but it was like hip hop with punk rock lyrics, and it just blew me away because I just didn't, I'd only ever really paid attention to stuff on the radio, and it just felt like no substance. And this was like, wow, it was everything. It was punk rock lyrics, it was very political. It was so as soon as that happened, I just dove right in. Started getting stuff like Sean Price, Jedi Mind Tricks. The second album, hip hop album I bought was It's Dark and Hell's Hot, DMX. It was on cassette tape. I got it in the like bargain bin at the mall, FYE mall or something like that. And yeah, so it was an interesting transition. But yeah, Philly is very like big into like street culture, underground culture. The two worlds mesh together really well. You'll see a lot of like rappers wearing like punk and hardcore band t-shirts and stuff. So it's cool. It's a cool place where both cultures kind of respect each other, even if they're not like fully in the same circle.
We were talking a little bit before we got started, and you talked about how you moved to Tennessee. Tell me how the music diversity has been there.
It is a lot different. Again, it's less people, but there's it's in my little area, it's mainly like bluegrass and stuff, which is cool. I'm actually working on a heavily inspired by bluegrass and folk kind of project, but it's not something I ever grew up with. Now, if you head out to Nashville, if you head out to Chattanooga, there is more like hip hop and more punk rock stuff. But where we moved to, it's really there's not a big scene, and I still go up to Philly probably once a month, and I still own the recording studio with my friends, and I have interns that kind of work for us, and they run the spot, but uh, it's very, 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 very different. There is an amazing music festival here called Muddy Roots. It's like a mixed genre festival. Like I saw Jizza from the Wu-Tang Clan with a bluegrass band. It was
Ooh.
awesome. Yeah, just something you'd never would think that would mesh. But then they also would have like hardcore bands and punk rock bands and um, country, folk, just like all sorts of stuff. So that's a really cool thing, and that's like 40 minutes from me. But my goal here, one of the big reasons we came here was I want to open an artist retreat so I can have my clients come and stay for maybe a couple weeks or a month at a time and work on an album. Record at any time. We're building like a 6 bedroom dormitory kind of thing that's attached to the studio.
That
That's
would
like,
be fun.
yeah, that's kind of the goal here is doing that. Bringing something new to town that, you know, yeah, I don't know how the locals will perceive it, but it's not for them.
Well, I think it would bring some more diversity there. I think it,
Yeah,
I think a lot of people would, because when people do these albums, they kind of like some like to be secluded from everywhere.
exactly.
So you hear people that write and like you've heard people like go to islands and stuff. They've gone to they stay in their house for long periods of time and don't leave. They just like to be secluded. So I honestly think that is a good kind of a good idea. It gets people to kind of get away from, especially all these most musicians come from big cities
Right.
that are starting out. And for them to kind of get away from all that city life and everything else, I think that would be a good thing for them to kind of get away from that and be able to really focus on their work and really put a lot of their time and energy into something that they're really passionate about.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, sorry to cut you off, but we came up here during COVID actually in the beginning and stayed in a cabin, and I recorded like 3 or 4 albums in this cabin. And it was amazing. It just felt awesome. There was nobody around. It didn't really, it just kind of, you could walk outside and see the woods, and it just, it was a whole different feeling, just being kind of in nature and being more in touch with the earth. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it really changes the creative process, I feel like,
Country life is completely different from city life
for
for
sure.
people that have lived in cities for all their life and they decide to move out of to the country. It's a huge lifestyle and a huge thing that a big change. It's
Right.
kind of like how me, if I moved from here to LA or New York, it would be a huge
Culture
difference
shock.
for me. It would kind of, yeah, like a culture shock. And it, I don't know how, it's something that I don't think I'd ever do. Now, I think for career wise, I would have to move to these big cities, but I'm like, once you get so used to something, it takes a long time to get settled in there. But the good thing about Tennessee is that it is known for its cabins and woods and mountains. Those are so peaceful to me.
Oh
And
yeah.
So, during your music career, have there been any huge punk rock artists or bands, as well as hip hop artists that you've been able to really encounter more more specifically since you've opened up this recording studio in Philly?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, but even before the studio, I was in a band called Fruit Punch, and we're a hardcore band, a subgenre called queercore. It was like very heavily political. Um, you know, we toured constantly. We're on the road 6 to 9 months out of the year, and we performed with a ton of top tier bigger bands. There's a band called Limp Wrist, and they're kind of like the biggest in that queercore genre, and we'd play with them. And the kind of the inventors of it was a band called Pansy Division that we were on a MTV documentary about them, you know. So in that realm, all the time we play with a lot of like bigger bands. And then as far as the studio, we started this thing called the Marsten House Cyphers, and it blew. We didn't expect it to blow up like it did. A cipher, for anybody who's not familiar, is when you get a bunch of artists together and you have like an instrumental playing, and then everybody just kind of freestyles or raps on top of it, and you just take turns, and you kind of it's the way that we did it was kind of trying to bring it back to the essence of that. And then there's the bigger ones like the BET ciphers is like the one that kind of inspired us to do it because we just hated it. It's so rehearsed. You could tell that they did it 50 times. There's a lot of cut scenes where it's like, they if somebody messed up, they'd let them re-record it a bunch of times. And then like the freshman ciphers, that was kind of the same thing. I mean, Little Dicky made a whole episode about it on his TV show where he did his verse like 60 times and everybody's tired of it. But
Mhm.
our thing is it's one take. If you mess up, you mess up. Whatever happens, happens. So we've had some wild moments on there. We've had like celebrities come through and jump on them. We've had people from, Puerto Rico and Australia and all these places fly in just to do these things. And because it blew up like that, I've had the opportunity to record Beanie Siegel and Freeway. And, the first big song we did was a Kendrick Lamar song we got to master for Hip Hop DX. It was like an exclusive track that they did. It was Kendrick Lamar, J Rock, Microphone Tone, and DJ No Frills. So we recorded all the DJ cuts live and mastered the whole song. That was Hip Hop DX at their main guy, Mike Trampy, brought us that. And then because of that, everything just kind of spiraled. The ciphers got us that gig, and then that gig got us to do Ad Lib's record, which was our first major label record. And then that got us to do this next. Everything just kind of kept spiraling. So now people I grew up listening to are in my phone, and I consider them friends, which is really cool. I've been to a lot of these people's houses. I have relationships with some of their kids. Um, so it's awesome. And then going out to Houston, like the journey just kept moving, and I started at a nonprofit school there called Workshop Houston. And the guy who hired me, his name's Bass Heavy, and he was the producer for all the No Limit stuff. And through him I got to meet a bunch of different people. So it's always just like a constantly moving thing. And there's no telling who I'll work with next, but that's the exciting part of it.
But that's not really the only aspect that you've had. Outside of music, you were also served in the U.S. Army, which thank you for your service. I
Oh,
always
thank you.
love to thank them for that. Tell me a little bit about how this opportunity came to be.
With the Army.
Mm-hmm. How did
Well,
what made you go? I want to be in the Army.
I never did that. Just it. I'm really like a spur of the moment, like not a lot of thought into certain things, like decision. Like I'll just do stuff to do it. I
Yeah.
like to do things just to say I did them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and again, being in a Fruit Punch was very political, very, very, very political, and we had a lot of songs that were not like too kind to the government or the military. And I had a very skewed like thought of what the military was. But my friend, the same one whose sister, his name got me into punk rock. Um, he came to the studio one day. We already had that open, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna join the Marines." I'm like, "Me too." That's really how it happened. We went to the recruiter, and I am covered in very visible tattoos, like neck, hands, and the Marines were like, "Well, you can get in, but there's no way you're getting in." And Chad was like, "Nah, we're doing this together." So then we went to the Air Force, and they told us the same thing. And then we went to the Coast Guard, and we went. They were never open. They never opened. We went every day for a week, and they just never were open. So then we just showed up at the army, and they're like, "Yeah, come on, we could waiver those tattoos." So then the next thing you know, I'm naked in a room with a doctor writing all my tattoos down. But yeah, there was no like, um, there was no real like I didn't want to be in the army since I was a kid or anything like that. I mean I like GI Joes and I liked action movies a lot, but I was never that guy, you know. And then when I got into it, I did love it. Like it was super fun. I met a lot of great people, and I just saw that it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I kind of thought everybody in the army was like a meathead type dude who's just going to be like, ready to like kill people and stuff. And it's not that. It's like a bunch of kids who want health care and want to get their school paid for. And I found that to be very like refreshing and I don't know. I just really I loved it. Like these people are like my brothers. And now again, like it's one of those things that until you do it, you just never could really fully understand it. So while I'm still super political and still like have a lot of the same opinions I had, I always am super grateful for the opportunity to do that. And between the army and the guard, I did 12 years. So it's like I did a nice chunk of time. And I've gone through, I went in, I honestly like, I just wanted to get in and be back to the studio. So I asked, I got like an 84 on the ASVAB and they were like, you could do any job. And I'm like, what's the shortest time of training so I can get back home? And they're like, either infantry or a cook. And I was like, well, how long is both of them? And I ended up picking cook. And then I got assigned to an infantry unit. So I ended up reclassing to infantry anyway at some point. And then throughout that, I started doing counter drug and intel. So I've done a lot of stuff. And then my most recent MOS was 25 Charlie, which is a radio operator. So just kind of been all over and just same kind of thing with I am with life. Like anytime there was an opportunity to do training or whatever, I'm jumping on it. Like I just like to do stuff. And from the army, I did the veteran fire course. I did a season as a wildland firefighter in Montana, which was super fun. Except I got super hurt and had to get airlifted to a hospital. But it was like it was still really
Ooh.
fun. Yeah, it was fun.
I know some people might be listening. I might sound weird. I was eating a cough drop because I was about to have a cough attack and I didn't have a drink in here, but I was able to eat it, so we're good. So I was trying to really like quickly eat a cough drop because I was like, so it's gone. It's good. It's gone. I can't talk now. Um, when people go into the army, they have to worry about traveling. Did you have to travel or were you able to really kind of be able to stay at one location? And I don't mean travel like um within the army. I meant like you come back home and you'd have to live at certain parts of the USA. Did you have to worry about that or were you able to kind of luckily be able to stay in and not really
There
have to relocate?
through times, they like obviously during basic training, I was at Fort Leonard Wood, and then for AIT, I was in Fort Lee, and then had to go to different um like I was at Fort Sam Houston for a little bit, and then I was at Fort Indiantown Gap a lot. But it's fortunately didn't have to like go to Hawaii or anything or Alaska and or South Korea or any of those places and get stuck there for a long time. And again, my active duty stint was pretty short. So I was able to do most of it as a reservist and then just get called up for, you know, whenever they needed me. which is cool. I mean, it gave me the ability to like really continue with the music. Because that's always going to be like my first love, you know.
Did the military kind of put a hold on your music career, or was it kind of a good equal balance?
I sometimes there, you know, there was one time where we were in me and my business partner Ethan, we were considering opening a second studio in Houston, and we drove down there, and it was there was a big snow, like a blizzard. You might remember this actually, because we there was this crazy blizzard. I forget what year. I want to say maybe like 2013, maybe, and I got a call. We had been in Houston for like a day, and I got a call, and they're like, "Yeah, you're getting activated for this blizzard." And I'm like, "I'm in Texas." They're like, "Well, you got 24 hours to get here. You're gonna get in some serious trouble." And I'm just like,
Oh,
"Okay." So we literally packed up and got in the car and started driving back. We got caught in the blizzard and coming up through, you know, from Texas going up through Louisiana, Mississippi. I think Alabama was next, I want to say, and then we hit Georgia and got caught in the blizzard. We were stuck on a road and uh we actually got stuck in Virginia, but we spun out in in Georgia, and then I was super late to get there. I got in some serious trouble. So yeah, at times it could mess things up, and that was something like my dad was worried about when I was going in. He's like, "Why are you joining? Like your music is going so well. Why are you going in the army?" Like he was actually pissed at me. He didn't want me to do it at all. And I was like, I'm a grown man. I'm like 19. I'm a grown man, Dad. I do what I want. But he was pissed. Um, but for the most part, I think it didn't. And again, I learned a lot of discipline, and I learned a lot of good traits in there, and I made some cool connections. And you know, a lot of people I was in the military with knew that I had a recording studio, so I've recorded a ton of people I was like served with. I've recorded a lot of bands from like my supply sergeant was in like an Irish rock band, so I used to record him, and then I had a lot of friends who rapped, so I'd record all them. So it's been good and bad, I'd say.
the snow event that I think you're talking about was when you said that the only thing that cough drop did not work. Um, the thing that reminds me was 2014. We had, I can't really remember if it was a blizzard. I think called it like a ice event. It was something like
It
we
could
had a
have been
little bit of
2014.
snow. We had like an inch or two of snow that fell. The temperature rose and then dropped dramatically to where it froze the roads up, and then everywhere around here that had to get shut down. We
It's
had, I think Atlanta was really impacted by it. You probably saw like all kinds of videos of people stuck on the interstates, and Birmingham got impacted by it. So when you said originally Texas, I thought originally you thought about the. I was thinking about the ice event that happened just a few years ago.
I was there for
Um,
that after Harvey.
so I remember there was an like a 2021, wasn't it? It was like this huge ice event, something, and there was like 70 or 80 cars involved.
Oh, okay. I wasn't there for that one, but right after Hurricane Harvey, they had a really bad ice storm, and the school I was at, all the pipes froze, and it was a nightmare.
Which people that might not live in the South, I know people up north make fun of us.
Yeah.
Listen, we're not used to 3 feet of snow. We see one snowflake, we all go into panic.
Well, there's no salt here. They don't salt the road up in Philly, you know, and up north. They anytime you hear there's
Right.
going to be snow, they dump like tons of salt in the streets, so it's not too bad. But down in the south, if it's a little slick, everybody's crashing, everybody's going crazy. The stores are just empty. Like there's no, get the bread, get the milk. It's like what is going on? Like, everybody's freaking out.
It's equivalent to how Californians are when it rains. Because it's like every time I see a YouTuber vlog or like post a video, they could have like a half an inch of rain, the whole city shuts down. And
Right.
it's like that's how it is when it snows here. We have one snowflake, we all have to shut down. It's like an apocalyptic scene. We have to let the whole world know what's going on. It's
Oh, I
people
mean,
just don't. quite
the
understand.
the South in general.
Yeah, when it comes to weather and stuff like that, like rain, it's like, oh, that's just every day. But
I mean, the
like
tornadoes are crazy here. Like that's something I wasn't used to. It's like every time there's a storm, my phone's like ding 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 tornado, and I was like, oh great. I wasn't used to that. We had like my whole life, I think one tornado touchdown in Philly, and it was like I want to say like 96 or 98 or something like that. So it's been a long time. And then we get here, and I mean, every weekend there's three tornadoes touching down somewhere.
that's just like you're welcome to. That was us trying to welcome you to the South. We like to
Right.
give tornadoes out to the. We were introducing you to the Southern lifestyle. Um, but I think the most interesting aspect of this whole thing has been, and you being an author. Tell me a little bit about how how you became an author and what made especially your book The Invasion of the Punk Rockers Who Drink Blood. I think that's like a great name because it actually
I
to
had to
me fits your brand,
right.
but it also is like a cool title to someone that might not know you. People that know you personally would be like, oh, well, that is a fitting name, and then people could hear the story and be like, oh, yeah, I see it. So tell me a little bit about how this book came to be.
Yeah, I mean so the book is like a 20-year project.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. I started the concept of it when I was 15. And it was heavily inspired by, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company Troma, but they made like The Toxic Avenger and a lot of really like corny, cheesy B movies, but they're just super fun. And me and my friends used to have like movie parties where we would fry anything. My friend had like a deep fryer, and anything you could think to fry, we'd throw it in there. It's pretty gross actually, but super fun. And then we'd just like bring people over and force them to watch these horrible movies. Um, but yeah, so I got to meet the guy who runs Troma. His name's Lloyd Kaufman. And, I was like, what would it take for you to make my script into a movie? And he's just like, well, what's your script called? I had no script. I had no script. And I was just like, off top, I was just like, Invasion of the Punk Rockers, Who Drink Blood, the musical. And he's just like, knew I was full of it. But, he's like, well, if you really have a script, get with me and, we'll make something happen. And he's laughing, knowing that I'm lying. Um, but I went home and I'm typing this thing away ferociously. And the original story was so bad. And again, think about like my at this point I'm 15 and I've been in like horrible punk rock bands the last 3 or 4 years. And my I didn't know much about the government other than what I've like listened to from other punk rock bands. So the like plot to this book or the screenplay I was writing was it was like a corporate zombies, and if you got bit by them, you turned into one. It was stupid. But throughout the years after I had abandoned it, I loved the title, and I just like kept coming back to it, and I revamped the whole thing, reworked it. I kept some of the characters and just really changed what the thing was about. And now it's like it's a found family novel where kids who don't necessarily fit in to a small town setting. I made it take place in actually a small town in Kentucky, and it's these kids. They don't fit in. They feel unwanted. They all find each other, and together they're battling real world monsters. Just racism, sexism, homophobia, just not fitting in with the general like population, the cool kids and the jocks kind of not wanting to put up with them, the town's sheriff and the teachers and pretty much everybody, they're looking at them weird, so they form their own family, they form their own scene, and while they're fighting these real world monsters, some otherworldly creatures come into play. So it's now they're fighting it on two fronts. So I took a lot of life experience to put this book together, and everybody kind of is loosely based off of somebody I've encountered, and it's a lot of my soul into this piece of work here that I don't think I could have made it without taking the 20 years, because if I would have wrote the original plot, it would have been garbage. But this, when I put this out, I didn't put any advertising in initially, and we hit like every young adult top 10 list. We were in there like just killing all these top 10 lists. And it's gotten great reviews. So now I'm working on the sequel, and it will not take me 20 years. I plan to have it out, by the end of next year at the latest. And I'm working on some movie deals and stuff. So I was told by my agent that I had to have the second one out before anybody will really take it serious. But
Mm.
we're working on some things right now. So I will not take 20 years. I'm putting it out there. I'm manifesting that this next one will be done in a year.
Well, and that kind of shows how long dedication to it, because most people could work on something for 6 months and they don't get a good idea and they just throw the whole thing away. They're like,
Right.
this is a waste of my time. For you to be able to like focus on it for 20 years at that long, I don't think anyone could focus on a project that long without getting annoyed that it's not coming together. And it could easily, like, you get this idea here, then 3 years later you might get another idea. That might be different. But even at that point, people usually would probably get mad that it takes too long for an idea to come, and that it's such a hard thing.
It definitely had its points of being very frustrating, and I like to like find things out the hard way a lot too. So a lot of this stuff I wanted to do like fully on my own. I did get a developmental editor and then a copy editor, but I only found out about all the way that you put out a book. I found a website called Reedy, and it's like basically everything you need to know about putting out a book. And I just went on there and did their classes, and I sent out some quotes to a couple editors, and they were sending me quotes for like between ten and $20,000, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a little more than I thought that this was going to cost. So, I had to find some people who fit my budget a little better. But everything I found an advanced reader, and they got to read the first draft of it and give me some like notes, and then I got a developmental editor to kind of go through it and tell me what would benefit from like losing, or what I should add. Or they also, developmental editor will find like continuity errors. So like I gave two different characters the same last name. I just didn't even they weren't even important characters. I'm just typing away, and they
Yeah.
caught that. They catch that. So it's super important step. And then after you do that, then you get a copy editor, and they go through and they correct your grammar and they do all that stuff. And then after that, I had to get a formatter, and they format the book into different formats and make all the cool pictures. My good friend Greg Hess, he drew all the artwork for it, and in each chapter there's a little drawing that he did. And now he's doing those as tattoos. Like if you go to him and get one of those tattoos, you get a free copy of the book. So it's like a little cool promo thing. But yeah, so there were so many steps to this that were frustrating, and I probably could have rolled the launch out a little better, but I just was like, at this point it's been 20 years. So I was like, let's get this thing out. Let's get this thing out. I got it out, but I've learned so much that I will handle the sequel a little bit differently.
I actually recently had a person on my show that was an author as well, and he explained to me the process of how it is releasing a book, and it was just like this step by step by step, and on some parts really detailed, and like very much had to be in this order. And I thought, well, now I didn't think it was this difficult to release a book. And he was saying that multiple platforms and different companies want different style covers for
Yep.
it. And I thought, oh, that was something I had never thought of. And I always had this thought, because I've seen books that have different designs, but to me, it's always been like, oh, it's the 10th anniversary. Here's like a special limited edition. I
Right.
didn't know that it was like, oh, on release, this company takes this kind of thing, but then here's something that looks more appeasingly friendly, which
Right.
which would mean like say it was a romance novel and they wanted and it was like kind of like those steamy novels and they wanted something in like a more of a kind of as a like a PG setting, so they would change the cover. I didn't think that books did that per se, but it it was kind of interesting. But it not gonna lie, when you said 10 like the 10, $12,000, I thought at first you meant like, oh, they were paying you that, and then you said, oh, it had to fit my budget. I said, oh. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, never
Well,
mind. I was like, I'm about to go write my own book right now because I was like, but it's good to have those resources because I think to me that takes the longest is like say if we wrote like a 500-page book, then you have to go back and read the whole thing again for this thing, and then go back and read the whole thing again. So I mean, to me, I feel like that would be the longest process of everything is reading it,
it
proofreading
was.
it, and editing. I think to me that's the only reason why I don't think I could write a book because I'm like, oh, that takes too much time. I just don't have the strength to do it.
That was so as I got notes back from my advanced reader, they did it chapter by chapter. So I read the book with them. Basically, I'd go through chapter by chapter, and then with the developmental editor, I had to reread the book again. And then with the copy editor, I had to reread the book. So I read it 3 or 4 times just in that process. So I actually haven't even read it in its final, like, it's a 400-page book. So it's like I haven't even read it again in the holding it in my hand, which is my favorite part of reading a book. But I've probably read it total while writing it and then going through that 10 or 11 times. So I, I feel like I know and now I'm doing the audiobook with an actor from Philly and I'm listening to the whole thing again. So it's like I know this story, like I probably recite it in my sleep at this point, but
Right.
I think it's good. It's good it's to like make other content out of it. I met a guy on another podcast who does audio dramas, and he was really interested in having me do that with him. He's in Chicago, so I might go up to Chicago and do that with him, where they'll have like a different actor for every single character, even the most background characters, and then they have music and they have all this other stuff. So we might do that, and that'll be like the 13th or 14th time I've heard the book now. So, but it's cool.
I always have that one thing. It's like if I read a book once, I can't read it again
I've been like that my whole life. So yeah, it's been
because
interesting.
if you read it like a second time, you know what's going to happen, and it doesn't. It takes that magic away. I mean, it there was this one year we had to read for do summer reading, and at this point, I hated summer reading. I was despised of it. I like reading now, but high school me hated it. So this was
Right.
already having to read it once was already a pain. Reread A Walk to Remember. Good book. For me not
Right.
liking books at the time, it was good. I look back at it as like, oh, it was a good book. We read it for summer reading, and then we read it again in class. I thought, oh, not only am I already having to read it once, I'm having to read it twice. Like I thought, this is going against everything I am,
That's a
everything I
nightmare.
know. I thought, not only have I had to suffer through it one time, and I barely even remember it. You want me to read it another time, and I can't remember if we read it out loud or we had someone read it to us like a narrator. I can't remember, but it was just I thought it goes against everything I have. I thought then what was the point of reading it over the summer if we're reading it now? I
I'm the same
was
exact way. I can't. And there's books I love too. Like I named Marsten House is actually from Salem's Lot. So like I love the book. I love Stephen King books. I love so many different books. But I mean, if you could see behind me, I have a ton of books. I've read them, but I
yeah,
will never be able to read them twice.
yeah,
And even if I read them, like Animal Farm is a very short book. I read it in elementary school and I love that book. I think it's hugely responsible for a lot of my political beliefs. I could never read it again, even though it's short. Same with like Watership Down. I love Watership Down. Another great book that kind of made me who I am, and same with 1984. But I just couldn't read them again, even though maybe some of it's a little hazy for me. I know where it ends up, so why
Right.
I couldn't do it twice. I'm with you. We're the same with that.
It I don't get people that read it like two or three times. I'm like, oh, like, okay. If I read it when I was 13 and I decide to read that same book again when I'm 40 or 50, maybe. Because chances are I wouldn't remember it. But when you're in a different mindset of, oh, I love to read, there's a difference in I hate reading and I love reading. I hate reading means you'd read it one time, you automatically forget it, you won't remember it for the rest of your life.
Right, right.
If you're a huge avid reader, like I've read books, which I'm still an avid reader. I haven't been able to read much because life's just been too crazy, but I'm like you. I have like started my own book collection of books I've read, and I can look over at my shelf and I could tell you like if it's even a series, the generic like overall storyline. I could tell
Right.
you now. I might not remember characters. Now that's a whole nother thing for me to remember, but I can tell you like what happens. I can give you like a brief summary of it. And see, before that, I was like, no. We had to read like, oh my Lord, I can't, people are going to scar me for this. We had to read The Scarlet Letter. I thought that was just bullshit on paper. I thought, what, I look back at it now and I'm like, I don't even know what the name, I couldn't tell you a name. I couldn't tell you a plot detail. I couldn't tell you
You
a
blocked it
thing.
out of your memory.
It was so bad. It was old school writing. It was like, we art thou. And I'm like, I already have to have trouble read because at this point, I kind of was bad at reading, not to the point where I couldn't read, but it was a thing where when you don't like reading, you just don't read. And so it took me forever to read a sentence without having to stumble over words.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I was
And
very
so
ADD, so I get it.
and so when you're now putting it on like prehistoric writing, it's like my brain wasn't processing it all. I thought it was such a I- it was just not a good book. I look at it now as like, yeah, that was still bad. We also read Lord, every year it was always a book I liked and a book I hated. There was never, oh, I hated both or I liked both. There was always I liked one, hated one. I don't know. Scarlet Letter to me is like number one worst book I've read.
That's hilarious. I think I've only liked one book we did in school. That was like The Giver. I loved The Giver. I thought that was a great book, but I can't think of any other one that I actually like even remember because they're just I blocked them out. It wasn't my type of read. Oh, again, when I was a kid, and in line with how I wrote my book, I was huge into Goosebumps. That was like my favorite stuff to read was Goosebumps
Mm,
books. And then my mom gave me started giving me Stephen King books. So I think the first one she gave me was The Long Walk, and then I read Christine, and I
mm.
just started going in on Stephen King books, and they just that's like the kind of stuff I like to read. It took
Yeah.
me a lot longer to like get into other stuff, but yeah, once I started reading that stuff, I loved reading and other crap, just like school books. Just I don't even know who picks these books. Like, it's just like, why do you think this is going to hold a kid's attention? Like, pick something interesting to get kids into reading before you just give them some crap that they're gonna. Because now, like, if you wouldn't have read the Scarlet Letter when you were a kid, and you got really into reading later, and then maybe it's something you would have picked up, and you don't have this bad thought process about it, where it's like a crappy book, maybe you would actually have liked it, but they don't do it like that. They give you crap first and turn you away from reading. And I've been a teacher for years, so I'm speaking to the system. So yeah, they it's just not the way that I think is the I don't think it's the best way to engage with kids like thought processes.
Yeah. So, so what did you were a teacher? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you don't want to hear my thoughts and opinions.
On T No, I do because that's what I quit teaching because of the bureaucracy. And that's why I started getting my degrees. Like I'm working on my doctorate now because I said I would not go back to teaching unless I was in charge and could make the decisions without the bureaucracy. Because I used to get in trouble for skipping the red tape all the time. Like, I was saying when our pipes froze and, they all of them busted. We didn't have bathrooms. That we couldn't be in the school, but we still had to teach these kids. So we
Yeah.
started like a little sports thing that we'd go down to Emancipation Park in Houston and we'd play sports there. And you know, these kids like needed something to do. So like I'm reaching out to the JJ Watt Foundation and Adidas to give us money. And Adidas was ready to give us $10,000. And the executive director was furious. Like, how do you know I want to work with Adidas? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, that's not how it works. You got to do this and this and this, and just like flipping out. And I'm just like blown away. And then we had I was trying to teach drums and do the sound booth project, and there was like, well, there's no money for drums. So I got in touch with Guitar Center, and Guitar Center donated $1,000 drum set to us. And that was a huge problem. I got in trouble for that. Or we built these 5 recording studios at the school, and my buddy I was in the army with, McKenna, he was like a higher up at Facebook, and Facebook is in Austin. So they
Mm.
hired an artist to come paint the studios, and they were going to do all these. Each room door was going to be a different album through a different decade. And the right before the artist got there, my director was flipping out on me, and it was like, she's like, "How do you know that I want to work with Facebook on all this stuff?" And I'm just like, it was my last straw, really. Like I was furious. I was like, I served in the army with this dude, pulled a huge favor, and now you're telling me we're not doing this thing after it's been like, being discussed. So we ended up just going out and eating, and I had to fill all this paperwork out for Facebook saying that they did it because they just, it was on Facebook's dime. So it was crazy. And uh, plus the way that they talked about the kids, it was an inner city school. So the kids, they talked about the kids, not everybody. Like there's people who worked there that were great people, but anytime the board was coming through to give money, they'd be like, oh, we got to be on our best behavior because the white people are coming in, and it would just piss me off. It's like these kids that you're having these kids out here dancing for the board members to try to get money, and it's like they're kids. Like they deserve the best, and they deserve respect, and they deserve dignity. So doing that kind of stuff used to make me mad. And finally, like, I was there for a few years, and I've taught in Philly too, and it's like this at every school. There's all this red tape. You can't just like do your best for the kids. You have to do your best for the system. And I just don't believe in the system. So yeah, that's sorry for going on a tangent there, but yeah, you can give me all your feedback on the schools. You said I'd be mad and not want it. I want it.
Well, this is just how we were taught down here. It was, and I've never understood why some teachers are like this. But if one kid gets in trouble, I've never understood why they punish the whole class. I don't understand what that achieves. I've never understood that. It's something every teacher has done. I don't know if it's just like a easy, quick thing for them to do, if it's something that's just more simple for them to have to deal with and just move on. But I think until like high school, they did that. My elementary and middle school were pretty bad about doing that, which I had a bad class. So, I mean, it was kind of a lost situation, but it was just something like it didn't matter how bad we were as a whole. If we had like 19 students in a class that were doing great, and you have one student that's acting up, I don't see why the whole rest of the not all 19 of us have to face the consequences for him.
Right.
It never made sense to me. They also was really for like, and I don't even know if this is even required or they just do this for like an assignment for a grade where you have to watch a movie, or no, it was for anything, movie, video, book, and you had to fill out paper like a questionnaire while you're watching it. I've never understood that, because to me it's gonna make someone not want to watch the movie because I don't want to do this work. I, it blows my mind. It was like then that, and then Lord, I think I did like a 3-hour episode, and I'm not over exaggerating, of me just saying like my school experience, and I think I touched on some of this in that episode that I was like, they did this stuff, but I never understood what the whole purpose of it was. I don't get what the whole punishing the whole class does. I don't understand why we have to fill out like questions and like fill in the blank while we're watching a movie. I don't understand like the summer reading aspect either, which I think they did get rid of summer reading because I think they finally saw that it wasn't doing anything. So I think they did get rid of that at least.
It,
But all these other things I never understood, and I still don't get it. I don't know if it was just like, oh, it was on their curriculum, it was in the guidebook from the state board of education that they have to do, or if it was just like, it's extra work for them to do. Yeah, why not?
it because the school system in this country hasn't changed in like 100 years. Uh, they don't plan on actually changing it. You have to. It's kind of similar with like doctors. Like you can have a lot of bad experiences at school, and really the only thing that's like standing in the way from school just being horrible is decent teachers. But those decent teachers get crucified basically for trying to do right by the kids, because
Yeah,
everything is standardized. They've really that's the biggest change. They've honestly all the changes have been for the worse. Other countries, there's a reason why we're last in like every subject. Other countries have evolved their school programs and have really taken them to just like different heights. You know what I mean? Like they've there's so many studies on like project-based learning and social and emotional learning and STEAM, which is STEM plus art, and just all these different ways to teach kids. And we're just so stuck in standardized testing. But also, they want it that way because I forget who said this. It might have been George Carlin or some comedian that was like, the rich want to keep people poor and uneducated because if they didn't, who would make the sandwiches? That's that's what it is. Like there, we live in an economy that's like it requires people to work these bad jobs to benefit the rich people. And if everybody got a good, loving education, nobody's going to try to work a crappy job. So
yeah,
unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at. But I mean, we pulled our daughter out of school and we're homeschooling her. We put her in an international school, and it's been amazing. Like just for one thing, having her home, we've noticed that she's calmer, and her feedback at school all the time was she talks too much, which is what I got when I was a kid. She talked too much. She talked back. And it's like she's 5. What do you expect? She's a freaking kid. But this school that she's in now, they give them 5-minute breaks like every hour. They have like silly time and they do all this other stuff. But since she started going, she's starting to read so much. I remember our school in town went to the state girls basketball championship. They were playing that, and the school closed for the day. It was such a big deal. Like I don't think it's happened here, and it was such a big deal. And they sent all the kids home with their daily packet. We did the whole day's work in an hour. I'm like, what are they doing at this school? I'm like, what is this all you do? And he's like, yeah. It's like, what do you do the other like 6 hours? It's like I don't even understand it. So at least at this other school, which now the difference is, we have to pay for this school that she's in now.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I'd rather scrap and pay for that school than send her back to public school where I just think that they're like molding these kids to be worker bees and not have any real independent thought.
Yeah, for someone that went through school and I just graduated from college like back in December, so I'm for
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. It was a rough road, but I there's some I think homeschooling is better because, and it doesn't even have to be if you want to do homeschooling through your school system. I just think homeschool is better in general because it's more of a carefree situation. It's not stressful. If someone you don't get in trouble for anything, you could do work while you're watching Disney all day. I mean, which I don't know how the whole homeschool thing, like if you are able to watch TV, but this is just what I have in my brain of like what I would imagine homeschool would be. You just get to wake up at, I don't know, 8, 9 a.m. or something, and then, get done with work by noon and have the rest of the day free, which I don't know how, if
Her
homeschooling.
school's not like that, but I had that same picture. I was like, oh, you're homeschooled, you do whatever you want. I knew a couple homeschool kids. Hers is she has to be up at 7:30. Um, yeah, she's up at
Oh,
seven
hey,
thirty, and then but she's done by 1 o'clock. And again, they get breaks every hour. They get a 5 minute break, and then at 9 o'clock they have a 15 minute. She's got like an hour lunch at 11, and then 1 o'clock she's done. So it's like, and she loves it. And again, they do fun projects and stuff. So she doesn't get to do, like, we don't want her to just feel like she doesn't have to do work. I still want her to
yeah,
get an education. So, but as
right.
soon as she's done school, it's like, yeah, you want to watch Moana again for the 50th time? Cool. Or you want to watch Lilo and Stitch for the 100th time? Cool. Let's do that. But during the day, she does, and she's motivated. It's on a computer. There's 6 other kids in her class. They got 2 teachers, so it's 3 kids per teacher. Um, and then they do have like after school clubs. Like she does like after school yoga club. So it's like
Hmm.
it's very cool. Like I highly recommend people looking into other like schooling than public school, because I think honestly even now the public school system's going to get even worse.
It is. You know, oh, here's my rant coming in for this one. But recently, our governor here has put into an act of no cell phones in class. Now, I have said this, I think, on the podcast already. I think when I recorded my school episode, I think the bill wasn't into effect yet. So I didn't have opinions then. But I'll reiterate this. I don't see a problem with having phones in the classroom.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't.
either.
I don't. Y'all, how hard is it if you think that they're having this much of a problem with phones, take them up in class. I don't see this whole thing of they can't come to school with them anymore. They have to keep them locked up in a locker all day. They have to do all this because, and I've heard some people here in Alabama, it's been a huge controversy of, well, it's mostly been boomers love it because, oh, they need to go to school to get educated. They don't need to be focused on these phones all day. But then here's young people or like these new parents that are like, well, I'd like to know if my kid was in danger, I'd have better confirmation he's okay or she's okay by their phone right here.
Right.
So, and I have to kind of fall, and this is not due to my age, but I do seem to fall in line with the latter of, if I had a kid in school, with everything that's going on right now, I would feel at ease knowing that my child had their phone in their hand, close to them right here. Then here's the classroom, all the way down here is their locker. Because if they were in a shooting, if a weather event happened, like a tornado hit, I'd like to know my kid would be okay. Because I couldn't suffer that whole thing. And I think these, but like older parents that have been through school that have that have grandkids and all this don't understand that rule. It's gonna be funny when, if something like that happens, to where there's a school shooting, there's some kind of major disaster happen, to where they don't know the thing of their kid, they don't know anything about it, and it might be 2 or 3 hours. They'll take all their statements back about having this phone taken away from them.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, even just in that very short, she did 1 year at public school, and in that time there was 2 shooting scares in our small town. One was a kid told somebody on the bus they were gonna like shoot somebody or something, and the whole town went crazy. We're getting text messages from the school and all this stuff, and I'm ready to go up there. And then another time,
Right.
something else happened, and there's parents lined up at the door trying to get their kids out. And this is in our small town of 1,200 people in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of nowhere, Tennessee, versus any other schools. And
Mm-hmm.
again, she was in preschool when that happened. So it's like, I think that that's just going to be something that is going to continuously get worse and just keep happening more and more and more. There's, I don't see a way. I don't see a way that that can be combated unless, honestly, the only true way to combat that is like give everybody health care and have like some serious mental health services available to people. And nobody wants to do that, especially in the South. That's like, that's taboo. So um and that's the only, that's genuinely my thought on how to solve that, or at least like help it out a little bit. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I would much prefer my kid having the phone on them than not.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's still a thing when I have kids, I won't tell them. I want you to keep this phone on you. I don't care if you get in trouble. I
Yeah,
want this
have
phone
them
on
call
you,
me.
and I want you like I'd feel more at ease because what I mean, and some people are gonna be like, well, if they were in a huge emergency, they'd let them have their phones. If you're on a lockdown, they're not gonna let you go out there.
Right.
They're gonna lock the door and you can't get out. I mean, if you want people to just open the door when there's a shooter and be like, hey, and all this stuff, then fine. I mean, like when I was in school, these were not as a problem as so I don't know what's happened since I got out of high school and into like college. I don't know what happened, but they weren't as a huge of a problem when I was in school. And so I don't know what's happened in just like that short period of time of like, oh, well, it's allowed to like, no, you can't have it. It's like, I don't, it kind of baffles me at it's just how this huge thing has really transpired. I mean, like, do I think that some people get addicted to their phones or are addicted to their phones a little too much? Yes, I do. But as I said at school, there's alternative ways. If you think that your kids are having too much time on their phones, take it up during class. Put
Right.
it put it in the phone pocket. I mean, I had some teachers do that where we had to put our phone in a phone pocket that we couldn't have it at our desk or we have it at our in our book bag. Some people we had to put ours in a phone pocket. So that was even before this whole thing came to be. So I don't know why that's not the alternative solution. It's the thing until shooting happens where they don't get in contact with their kid, they'll change their mind after that. And if they don't, then they shouldn't be a parent.
Where I'm a little older than you. I'm 35. So when I was in school, phones were pretty new. Most kids didn't have them.
Yeah.
Um, I only got a phone when I was first going on tour, just so I would be able to like call for emergencies. And it was like a
Yeah.
Virgin Mobile, just piece of crap. You put minutes on it. But I think the thing is like older people just want everyone else to suffer the way they did, and they just can't be happy that people have these phones on them in school. So it's like, no, it was hard for me,
Right.
so you have to suffer too. It's the same thing with like student loan forgiveness. Like, well, I worked at a diner and paid off all my loans, so you should pay your loans off too. It's like, well, sorry that you got duped into the system just like me, but now there's a solution on the table. And
Right.
also, inflation is so different than it was back then that you were able to work at the diner, pay off your student loans, and pay for a mortgage and support kids, where the average income has been the same since like the 70s. Like the average income is like $36,000, and it's been the same for like 40 years. And it's like, you're telling me that that's okay? Where, I know my grandpa got a house for like 10 grand, a decent house. And now houses are going for like $800,000 for just like,
Right.
so it's just it's a different world that we live in, but people want to like act like the struggle's the same, and it's not.
Oh, it's 100% not the same anymore. And I feel like some old people think that. And I always hate because people are like, well, they lived in a different era than that. Yeah, I understand that. But do you not know that time evolves, things evolve to where it's better? I mean, some people think that it's such a disgrace that we have it so much better than they did. I mean, wouldn't you want that on people? I mean, I couldn't imagine if I lived like in the 50s or 60s, why I would want someone to go through something I had gone through, like war and stuff, like World War II, World War One. I mean, I don't understand. It's like some people wish that those were those times. And it's like, why would you want to live during those times? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think everyone thinks that, oh, I lived it this way. That's how it's always going to be. I mean, if you want to live in Jurassic period, then fine. Go back to Jurassic Park.
I,
Like, go
it,
back to the dinosaurs if you want to live in that period, fine. But I mean, you have to accept the fact that we're not going to stay in those times. And it's the same thing with jobs. I can't tell you how difficult it is. It is like you said, it's not as difficult, it's not as easy as it was back then, where it was, oh, you could walk into a soup kitchen. Or I love how I said kitchen. I swear.
had that southern twang on it.
I don't even know if that was Southern twang. That was something else. It was like something from the old days.
You
I
got in
think
character for the time frame we're talking about.
apparently so. But it's like you can't go to a soup kitchen. You can't go to regular job like walk in, say I want to work, and they hire you on the spot.
Oh
It's not
yeah.
like it's not like that no more. And it's like adults and boomers and like people that are like older than 50 and 60 think that.
That
No,
it
it's
is a
not that hard.
it's a big misconception that these
It
people think
is.
that it's easier now when honestly especially since you've been alive, I think I had a couple years of like, well, not even really, because there was still in the 90s, there was still the Panama crisis and other stuff, and the Gulf War. But when I was a kid, it didn't, maybe because the internet wasn't out yet, we weren't drowned with as much information. But literally since like the end of Bill Clinton's term into George Bush with 9/11, there has been constant war. We're constantly like just around the world, there's been just devastation and poverty that is like unmatched, and just death and crazy division, and just everything has just been insane. And we've gone through recessions and inflation and all this other stuff. So anytime I hear like, you don't even know how easy you have it, it's like, buddy, like you could work. I look at Homer Simpson. Homer Simpson made like $30,000 a year and had a 4 bedroom house. I know it's a TV show, but it's based off of what people were really doing. Like you could work a job and make that $36,000 a year and like still afford to like take your family on vacation. Like
Mhm.
that's not the case now. It's just every eggs are $7 a freaking dozen. You know what I mean? Like I remember even when I was a kid, you could still get a loaf of bread for $1. Bread's $5 now, but you get paid the same amount. You could still get a thing of milk for, $1. Milk is $5 too. And you get and you're getting paid. Your check is the same. So it's like it drives me crazy when I hear this stuff.
You're in that range of like, I think you're like Gen or a millennial. I don't
Oh
know the
yeah, I'm a
terms.
millennial.
Uh, you're in that thing where it's like you kind of agree with some older generations, but you also agree with some younger ones. You're in that middle ground where it's like you kind of have like you kind of see both sides. I'm part like Gen Z. I don't anything above me. I'm like no, but it, our world right now, and I've said this to multiple people. It's just tough. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
everyone's suffering, and I wish it was like, I kind of wish it was like the 1980s and 90s, where it was like, there were, some people back in 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, didn't have to deal with half the stuff that we have now. And in some ways, I honestly think that they had it easier because they didn't have to worry about their child getting killed on their way to school every day. They didn't have to worry about paying $12 for gas, like $12 a gallon. It
Yeah,
was
right.
like 98 cents
Not
then.
even some. It was a quarter at one time. Yeah,
So, I wish that had lifestyles back then? Yeah. And it's like, and it's sad that, back then when people think, oh, 25 cents is so expensive, I bet they look at that now and as like that was nothing compared to what it is now. I mean, I would take 20. I bet they're like, I kind of wish I did have 25 cents compared to 480 to 9
yeah, right,
9.89, or this high expensive gas. But it's so hard because people all have different political opinions as well, and I've just kind of been living. I just kind of have gone through life now as take it day by day. I try not to worry about gun violence. I don't worry about going to a supermarket and worrying my life about, oh, will I make it out of this supermarket today? Will I make it going down the road? Will I get shot on campus? I didn't live life like that, because if I did, I'd be nervous about everything.
right. Yeah, you can't do that.
You
I
can't
agree.
do it. I know it's hard to not think of it, but I think something that we all need to do is, kind of live life, take it day by day, and just worry about yourself and worry about what you've got going on in your own life. You can't be worrying about prices going up. You can't control that. And I wish we could, but we can't. So you just have to really just focus on like a home project, focus on getting your car. Maybe if you want to decorate your car, focus on that. Think if we focus more on like silly stuff, I think it would be more of a thing. And, and it's so hard to, have opinions now, that you get ridiculed for having one opinion. I've said it. I don't care about political stuff at all. I don't get political at all. I don't really care what you believe in. I don't. It doesn't affect me. Doesn't. I don't lose sleep at not worrying about
Right, right.
that. Like some people with this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. Some people were worried that he lost his job. Some people were worried he'd get it back. Me on the other hand, like I was like, I thought, okay, he lost his show. Okay, next. It didn't bother me that I didn't care about it, because it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. You know, if you think that he deserved to lose his show, great. If you didn't think he didn't lose his show, I will learn one of these days to say his sentence right. If you think that he didn't deserve it, great. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect all that.
It's hard to care about a lot of this stuff when life is just hard. You know what I mean? It's like everybody has their own struggles. I do think that this kind of stuff in like a bigger, grander scheme of things affects us, maybe not directly, but like, the free speech aspect of it. It does have an effect on us
Yeah.
if it keeps spiraling out of control. But it is hard. Like I can't fault anybody for not caring when it's like life is again, gas is that much, eggs are this much, rent is this much, school is this much. It's like it's how can you care about all this stuff when there's so much other stuff directly affecting you every day? But that's why, people like you who have these platforms and, give a voice to people to express these opinions, you just never know when somebody's going to hear it and it might change how they feel about things and then they go on and I don't run for office. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to keep doing what you're doing and caring about your craft, and that's affecting people on more of a personal level than any of this other crap is, honestly.
Yeah, and I want people to understand that listen to this podcast know that all these guests that you've had on here or have heard on here, I've interviewed probably about 100 people at this point. I've interviewed so many. I know that probably by the time this episode comes out, there'll be that 100. But in this moment, I recording, I have about 40 episodes out, and half of them have been guests, half of them have just been solo ones. Do I agree with every guest that comes on my show, some of the beliefs that they have? No. But do I care about those opinions? And am I going to worry and argue with them about it? No. That's
Right.
the whole point of this show. I want people to come on here and be able to kind of speak their truth, no matter if you believe it or not, no matter if you support it or not. I I give this as a platform to where I accept all people. I don't care who your background. I don't care about what your beliefs are. I don't care what you identify as. If you identify as a fishbowl, I don't care. I'm not going to lose sleep wondering why you identify as a fishbowl because that's just something I don't need. Like, I'm not.
It
It's
doesn't
not worrying.
affect you.
It doesn't affect me. It doesn't. It's not going to ruin my life that you identify as a fish. I don't care. I just want this platform to be as a way for people to be able to kind of be their true selves on here and have open conversations about it. I'm never going to argue with someone over here. Now, what some people have I wanted to argue about some stuff? Yeah, but it would go against the whole theme of the show is that I
Right.
want this show to be more, I want it to be a calm atmosphere. I want people to listen to the show for an hour and a half, 2 hours out of your day, or even just like 20 minutes of you don't have to listen to this show, not to worry about anything for 20 minutes or for 2.5 hours. You just listen to two people ramble about random stuff. You hear me struggle with words. Like you just it I try to put comedy in there, but I also I've also had people on here that talk about I've sexual abuse. I've had mental health people come on here. I mean, it's been open, so I keep the show open to everyone. I don't want people to think that I have these certain guests on because of what I want, or it's like, oh, I only have mental health people on here. No, it's not that. It's just that seems to be the crowd that I attract the most, and I have to go off that. But I with this whole thing with Jimmy Kimmel about it, do I think it went a little too far? Yeah, I mean, what talk show host that not doesn't get political? Like, and
Right.
it kind of takes that free speech away. I mean, say what you want to say. I mean, I don't care if you say that fish bowls are better than sand. Say it. I don't care. If you think red pencils are better than blue pencils, say it. It's not going to affect me. Don't get offended if someone don't say your favorite color. It's just like a huge it. It's just a different time. It's such an interesting time, and it's one of those things where it's like I can't wait to go when I'm 50 or 60, look back at this time and be like, what were we thinking? What was life like there and then? It's something that I hope to look back on. And I hope that future generations don't have to deal with the stuff that we've dealt with. Hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it does. But I don't know. It's just something that I've told people. Just take it day by day. Don't worry about every little thing. Just live life. I mean, you can't go around worrying. You can't go around mad at everyone because that just leads to like a really difficult life. And a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, we kind of got ranty on some stuff, but it's part of the show. I like getting the truth out there because it's the reason why I have a lot of these people on here is that people don't want to hear the truth and they want to have their voice heard.
Right.
That's what I do this show for, is to have these people finally get their truth out, speak their opinion. They don't get judged over it. I sit here, I don't judge anyone on here. I don't say Really though, I sit here and listen to them. If they want to rant 45 minutes about something, I let them rant 45 minutes. If they only want to talk for 2 seconds, I let them talk for 2 seconds. I give this as a platform, and I think that's why it's done so well. It's how raw it is. I don't think people tend to not hear the truth of this. Like I've had people talk about very like personal stuff on here. I'm like, ooh, that's gonna really get you in trouble. But okay, like I've dissed my whole classmates before. I've dissed my whole school system before on here. I mean, I'll say it. I'm not gonna care if they want to come for me. They can. But um, it's we've probably been rambling on a lot. But and I'll kind of wrap things up here because I know you got kids that probably need to go to bed.
I've been
This is
hearing them
school.
going crazy. They're just running around.
So kind of wrap things up. As a father yourself, and you've experienced this as a child, and even as an adult, you've seen this. What do you wish for your kids about? And I think this is a good question that everyone knows. It's like, as a parent that lives in this town that has young kids, how do you kind of lay all this stuff on them? Because it's like some parents are like, how do I say gun violence? How do I speak up and introduce this stuff to them? Because it's so hard to try to really dumb it down without getting the message across. But if you say the message, it's so graphic to where it's like they don't need to hear that at this young age. So,
It,
how do you want your kids' future to be like? And what advice do you have for them about just how to really live life like it is now?
well, I mean, I am pretty like blunt and open with the kids. I people can disagree with that or not, but I tell them about stuff that's going on. My daughter's pretty aware about stuff. I tell her that there's bad people out here, and we talk about why she needs to and how she needs to behave in public. Because like one time we're in North Philly and I'm getting money out of the ATM and she's like, "That's a lot of money." And I took her aside, like, you can never say that because you never tell people how much money you have because there's bad people who want to take it from you. Or if we talk about stranger danger at the playground or all that stuff. And I for her 5th birthday, I bought her a rifle to teach her about it. It's like I think that if you know a lot about where I think a lot of parents go wrong with the gun violence stuff is they pretend that these things don't exist, including guns themselves, right? Um, so I think if you're educated on it, um, you have a leg up a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't expect her to understand it yet. Like she's 5 years old, so she doesn't understand the concept of death, but we talk about it. And she doesn't understand the concept of a lot of this stuff. But I think that understanding that if you see a weapon, you don't touch it. You know what I mean? Like you don't pick it up, and this is the consequences. This could kill somebody, and when you're dead, there's no coming back. So don't touch it. If you have a friend that has one, you find a grown up and or you leave, like leave the house. Like there's just these are the things that we talk about. Like I said, teaching her how to load one, how to unload one, how to check if it's loaded, just talking about it. That's important to me just so that she has that knowledge set. And also just like I don't want them to be paranoid or to be scared of anything. So that's the opposite of what I want. I want them to have great lives. We do a lot of fun stuff. We go to the zoo all the time. We go to the aquarium. We go we just do a ton of fun stuff and I just want them to be happy. That's the only way that I feel like I won as a dad. I would sacrifice my music and any of my creative stuff, even though when I do, I am grumpy. I like creating is definitely the way that I am happy, but for that, I just want them to be happy and to, when they get older and they look back on their childhood, I just want them to go like, wow, we had a great life. No matter what the world looks like at that point, even if we are living in a war torn whatever. I want them to be like, what, like our childhood was awesome. And yeah, that's important to me. So, my advice, like if they listen to this way later, is, be aware of what's going on, but don't let it change who you are and how you live your life.
I think that is, I think that is great advice, and this has been, it's such a difficult question for parents this generation to really, it sucks that this generation of parents have to deal with this,
Right.
and my advice would be kind of what he said, but, let them still be a kid. They don't need to be introduced to all this stuff at such a young age. I wouldn't really let them watch news
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
news
no.
can be graphic on some things. Now, yeah, I don't know how young and how old you have to be. I would try to keep them, I wouldn't try to hide it, but I don't want you to really be like at 4 years old, have a child sit your child down and start talking about war, guns, violence, all this stuff at that age. I think about, it's such a difficult question because I'm not a parent. I've never been a parent, so I don't know. But I just feel like kids need to still be kids. So instead of um worrying about what's happening on the news, I mean, worry about what's happening on Coco Melon or something like that, or like on Moana. It's like, oh, is she gonna save the world? Oh, it's
Well,
like, oh, the water's too high. Like,
they definitely like she loves Moana specifically, but we let them be kids, but we definitely tell them like this is going on. Like, there's kids that are suffering, just be grateful in a lot of ways that you have, we'll talk about like these kids have more toys than probably anybody. Like they're spoiled rotten, which is I wanted that for them. And it's, hey, just understand that not every kid has a room. Not every kid has their own room. Not every kid has this many toys. Not every kid can stop at Sonic and get a grilled cheese every day if they wanted to, or not every kid could go just get shrimp fajitas because you want it, or not every kid can get ice cream, and that's just not the reality that we live in. So just be thankful for everything that you have, and I think that leads them to, again, it's a concept that's really difficult for a kid to understand at this age, but I think that
yeah,
having that like kind of open dialogue with them and still letting, like, they play every day, all day. And again, even at school, when she has her 5 minute break, she goes, 5 minute break, and she runs out and they're dancing and all this stuff. So it's like she is very much a kid, but
yeah,
she does have I think a perspective that a lot of kids don't have. I've seen her interact with younger kids her age, and I think she has a a bigger perspective than some. So like I agree with you. I never would want to like ruin their childhood with just like graphic news. Like I'm not just like there's, I'm not sitting her down every day like 20,000 kids in Palestine were murdered today and all this stuff, and the Uyghurs are being genocided by China and Sudan. Like I'm not sitting there and saying this stuff to her, but I'm like, look, there are kids in the world that are suffering. People are suffering. You're very fortunate. There are bad people. Be aware of it, but let's go play. That's kind of how it is.
yeah. I mean, you'd much rather have a kid like cry over something like, you wouldn't want to hear a kid cry. You walk in here, they're crying, you ask them what's wrong, they say, oh, there was another shooting today, and it's like,
Right.
you'd much rather walk into a room and say, hear someone be like, um, I'm trying to think of something funny. Hold on. It's late at night, y'all. It's late when we're doing this. My brain's shut off. It's like you much rather would want to walk into a room and hear their child cry and be like, "What's wrong?" It's like Dora can't find her map. It's so sad. It's like you want your kids to cry over stuff silly like that rather than real world. But
Right.
I think that this has been such a great conversation. I mean, there's still some other things that we didn't get to, but I think that this episode, everything that you've explained, I think is 100% um shows a lot of really good strength. Because some people could have all this stuff go through, and even your opinions about being a teacher. I rarely know any teacher that would come on a podcast and say that. So give you a lot of props for that. But if people would like to maybe check you out, if they would like to learn more about just what you have going on personally, as well as if they would like to check out your music, feel free. Where can they best find you at? And feel free to promote anything that you have going on coming up.
Yeah, yeah. If you're wanting to get in touch with me, feel free to reach out to me on any social media platform. It's at Steve Sxaks, which is Sxaks is Sxaks. Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. You can find me at Steve Sxaks. You can go to stevesxaks.com or you can go to letsgoguy.com, which is my slogan. People yell that at me on the streets. I won't even know who they are, but people who watch the Cyphers will drive past and go, "Let's go, guy." So that's if you see me, just yell "Let's go, guy" at me. Coming up, I have several albums coming up. I just released two albums in the last month, an instrumental project and a hip hop project with a good friend of mine, Trey Digga, and obviously the book, Invasion of the Punk Rockers Who Drink Blood. Check it out. It's free on Kindle if you have a Kindle account. So check it out. Yeah, you probably will like it if you're into that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll talk to anybody. So hit me up if you want to have a conversation or if you hated my responses on here and you're like, no, you're wrong. I'll have that conversation with you. So, yep. Or just Google gorgeous men. I'll be the first search.
He'll be the first result up. Um, I'll put off his links and social media accounts in the description below so that it's easy access. I'll put off his music links, book links. I mean, everything will be down there so it's easy
Awesome.
access for that. So you don't have to worry about that. You have to worry about them misspelling your last name. I got you. I do all that on there because if people know me, I can't spell worth a damn. So, and you know, I think I'd much rather be like have that person because you and me are opposite when people like drive by and be like, say your name. People could be like, for you, let's go, guy, and you're like this. Me, I'm walking, someone to be like, no, and I'm like, who knows me? Who's saying my name? I don't know anyone here who knows me. So, um, thank you so much for coming on here, and yeah, I'll put all of his links will be down there. If you would like to keep updates with me, for the podcast and whatnot, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And as always, the best way to support the podcast is, of course, follow it wherever you get your podcast from. It's on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's everywhere. So feel free to follow the podcast on any of those platforms so you get notified when new episodes come out. I really hope you all have a great rest of your day and week. Be safe out there, make good decisions. Don't worry about everything going on. Just live life the way it is, and you'll get through it just fine. But anyways, see y'all in the next episode of Lethal Venom. Y'all take care.